The Battle of Pusan Perimeter, which took place from August to September 1950, was a crucial early conflict during the Korean War. This battle was marked by intense fighting, strategic maneuvers, and a desperate struggle for survival by the United Nations (UN) forces against the North Korean People's Army (KPA). The battle's outcome played a significant role in shaping the course of the Korean War and had lasting implications for international military strategy. The Korean War began on June 25, 1950, when North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel and invaded South Korea. The invasion caught the South Korean forces and their allies, primarily the United States, by surprise. The KPA, equipped with Soviet weapons and enjoying numerical superiority, quickly overwhelmed the South Korean defenses. Within days, they had captured Seoul, the South Korean capital, and continued their advance southward. The rapid advance of the KPA forced the UN forces, composed mainly of American and South Korean troops, into a retreat. By August 1950, the UN forces had been pushed back to a small pocket of territory in the southeastern corner of the Korean peninsula, centered around the port city of Pusan. This area, known as the Pusan Perimeter, became the last bastion of defense for the UN forces. The perimeter was approximately 140 miles long, stretching from the Nakdong River in the west to the Sea of Japan in the east. The terrain included mountains, rivers, and valleys, which provided natural defensive advantages but also posed significant logistical challenges. General Walton Walker, the commander of the 8th United States Army, was tasked with organizing the defense of the Pusan Perimeter. His forces consisted of a mix of American, South Korean, and other UN troops, including contingents from Britain, Australia, and the Netherlands. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Walker and his commanders were determined to hold the line at all costs. They established a series of defensive positions along the perimeter, utilizing the natural terrain to their advantage. The North Korean strategy was to encircle and annihilate the UN forces within the Pusan Perimeter. They launched a series of coordinated attacks along multiple fronts, hoping to break through the defenses and capture Pusan, a vital logistical and supply hub. The KPA employed tactics that included night assaults, infiltration, and the use of heavy artillery and tanks. The fighting was fierce and relentless, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. One of the key battles during the Pusan Perimeter defense was the Battle of the Nakdong River, which took place in late August and early September. The Nakdong River formed a natural barrier on the western side of the perimeter, and the KPA focused significant efforts on crossing it. The UN forces, including the U.S. 24th Infantry Division and the South Korean 1st Infantry Division, faced repeated assaults from the KPA. The riverbanks saw some of the fiercest fighting of the entire battle, with hand-to-hand combat and close-quarters engagements becoming common. In one notable engagement, known as the Battle of the Bowling Alley, the U.S. 27th Infantry Regiment faced a concentrated attack by North Korean forces. The battle took place near a narrow valley, which became known as the Bowling Alley, due to the intense artillery and mortar fire that rained down on the UN positions. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the 27th Infantry Regiment held their ground, inflicting significant casualties on the KPA and preventing a breakthrough. The defense of the Pusan Perimeter was not solely dependent on ground forces. Air power played a crucial role in supporting the UN troops and disrupting North Korean supply lines. The U.S. Air Force, along with naval aviation units, conducted relentless bombing raids on KPA positions, supply depots, and transportation networks. These airstrikes helped to slow down the North Korean advance and provided much-needed relief to the embattled UN defenders. Logistics and supply were critical factors in the battle. The port of Pusan was a vital lifeline for the UN forces, allowing them to receive reinforcements, supplies, and equipment from overseas. The UN command, under the leadership of General Douglas MacArthur, implemented a strategy to rapidly deploy additional troops and material to the Pusan Perimeter. This included the use of convoys and airlifts to bring in fresh units and replenish depleted stocks of ammunition and medical supplies. As the battle raged on, the UN forces began to receive reinforcements from the United States and other allied nations. These additional troops bolstered the defenses and provided much-needed manpower to replace the heavy losses suffered in the initial engagements. The arrival of the U.S. 2nd Infantry Division, the 1st Provisional Marine Brigade, and other units helped to stabilize the front lines and mount counterattacks against the KPA. One of the critical turning points in the Battle of Pusan Perimeter was the strategic use of the Incheon landing, an amphibious assault led by General MacArthur. On September 15, 1950, UN forces landed at Incheon, a port city located on the western coast of Korea, far behind North Korean lines. This daring and risky operation caught the KPA by surprise and forced them to divert troops away from the Pusan perimeter to counter the new threat. The success of the Incheon landing created a two-front scenario for the North Koreans, significantly weakening their offensive capabilities. With the pressure relieved at the Pusan perimeter, General Walker's forces began to mount a series of counteroffensives. The UN troops, now bolstered by reinforcements and better equipped, launched coordinated attacks to push the KPA back. These counterattacks were characterized by intense fighting, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. However, the superior firepower, air support, and logistical capabilities of the UN forces began to turn the tide. By late September, the KPA was in full retreat. The UN forces broke out of the Pusan perimeter and pursued the fleeing North Korean troops northward. The rapid advance of the UN forces recaptured key cities, including Seoul, and pushed the front lines back to the 38th parallel. The successful defense of the Pusan perimeter and the subsequent counteroffensive marked a significant turning point in the Korean War, shifting the momentum in favor of the UN forces. The Battle of Pusan perimeter was a testament to the resilience and determination of the UN forces. Despite being outnumbered and facing a well-equipped enemy, the defenders held their ground and ultimately turned the tide of the war. The battle showcased the importance of strategic planning, effective use of terrain, and the critical role of logistics and air power in modern warfare. It also highlighted the brutal realities of combat, with both sides suffering significant casualties and enduring the horrors of war. The legacy of the Battle of Pusan perimeter extends beyond the immediate military victory. It demonstrated the resolve of the international community to stand against aggression and uphold the principles of sovereignty and self-determination. The battle also set the stage for the eventual armistice and the enduring division of Korea, a legacy that continues to shape the geopolitical landscape of the region to this day. In conclusion, the Battle of Pusan perimeter was a defining moment in the Korean War, marked by intense combat, strategic maneuvers, and the indomitable spirit of the UN forces. The hidden facts and complexities of the battle underscore the challenges faced by the defenders and the significance of their victory. The story of the Pusan perimeter is a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made and the enduring impact of one of the most critical battles in modern military history.